This is the Everyday AI Show, the everyday podcast where we simplify AI and bring its power to your fingertips. Listen daily for practical advice to boost your career, business, and everyday life.
If you're a Google Gemini user, here's the good news. You have dozens of new AI features and upgrades to tackle available now, including Gemini 3.5 Flash. But here's the bad news. In order to find them all or make sense of them, you're going to need like a roadmap, a translator, and also dozens of hours. That's not all that's new in AI this week. If you're an Opus user inside of Cursor, there's a new model you might want to take a look at. PowerPoint's got a lot easier with ChatGPT. And speaking of ChatGPT, its bigger, stronger brother, Codex, again, released a handful of AI updates that I don't understand how they're this good and this far ahead of the pack. So if you don't have hours every single day to keep up with all of these new AI releases, because that's how much time it takes, because that's all I do, well, this is the show for you. On Fridays, we bring you our new AI Friday features where we give you the lowdown on some of the most important and impactful AI tools that you can use today, and LLM upgrades that you don't have to wait around for, not coming soon. These are ones you can use today to start making your life a little bit better. All right, let's get into it. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Jordan. This is Everyday AI. It's a daily live stream podcast and free daily newsletter helping everyday business leaders like you and me not just keep up, but how we can use all of this new AI technology to get ahead to grow our company and career. It starts here with the unedited, unscripted live stream podcast. But to be the smartest person in AI, our website is your cheat code, youreverydayai.com. Go sign up for the free daily newsletter. We're going to be recapping the 7 AI features that we're going over in today's show, as well as a whole lot more. So make sure you go check that out. And hey, live stream audience, good to see you. Kimberly joining from New York City. Jose joining from Santiago. Joe is Codex vibing in the mountains. I'm Codex vibing in Chicago. Sounds a little bit funner. So thanks for everyone for joining. If you do have any questions as we go along, I'll try to get to them, but let's get straight into it. There's a lot to cover this week, and let's start with Google 3.5 Flash. So yeah, there was a lot. We didn't get a Gemini 3.5 Pro. I think that there's a reason Google did this. I'll tell you here in a second. So here's what it is, what's new, who has access, all that good stuff. So Gemini 3.5 Flash is Google's new flagship model. Yeah, that's right. Their Flash is the flagship model for now in the Gemini 3.5 family, and it was announced at Google's I/O. We're going to be recapping probably 3 or 4 of the Google I/O AI updates. The rest will be shared about and already shared about in our newsletter. But it is shipped. It is available now. And the crazy thing is, well, it beats Gemini 3.1 Pro on coding and agentic benchmarks, while also running about 4 times faster than comparable frontier models. So right now it is the default model in the Gemini app. And also, so even if you're not a Google Gemini user, you're going to take advantage of this new Gemini 3.5 Flash. That's because it is the new default mode in AI mode inside Google search worldwide. And it is going to be powering Google's new Gemini Spark. We're not going to be going over that today because hardly no one has access anyways. All right, so who has access to this now? Well, like I said, it's live, not just in the Gemini app, but also in AI mode and search if you use Google's AI Studio or Vertex, in the API and Anti-Gravity 2, which we're going to be going over today. All right, so it is an internal, the Gemini 3.5 Pro is expected next month. So Google did say that next month is going to be the Gemini 3.5 Pro release. Presumably what we think is going to happen, right? And this is how it's kind of happened in the past around these timed big events. Usually an OpenAI or a Anthropic or someone is going to come out with a model, usually in response. And, kind of to dethrone Google here. I don't know if that's going to happen, right? I don't know if we're going to see an open, GPT 5.6. We've seen rumblings of that. if we're going to get, Sonnet 4.7 or, eventually an Opus 4.8 or Opus 5, whatever it is. So depending on the benchmark you look at, yeah, right now a Flash model, Gemini 3.1 Flash. So this is supposed to be the smaller, lighter, faster, cheaper version, although it's not really cheap anymore. But in some benchmarks, it's the best model in the world. All around, is it? No, it's not. But that's what we might see out of Gemini 3.5 Pro, which is going to be coming later. So here is what Google says on their kind of marketing. So they say Gemini 3.5 Flash delivers intelligence that rivals large flagship models on multiple dimensions at the speeds you have come to expect from the Flash series. It is our strongest agentic and coding model yet, outperforming Gemini 3.1 Pro on challenging coding and agentic benchmarks like Terminal Bench 2, GDP Val AA, and MCP Atlas, and leading in multimodal understanding. So Google did share kind of the benchmarks, how this compares to both the old version of Flash as well as Gemini 3.1 Pro and Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5. And you'll see here, at least on the screen that I'm sharing, there's actually a handful of benchmarks, right? I know it's not just about benchmarks, but there's a handful of benchmarks that actually the Gemini 3.5 Flash is the best in the world, right? So as an example, MCP Atlas, which is multi-step workflows using MCPs, Toolathon, there's a couple others, that this new quote unquote small fast model is the best in the world. That will obviously change once Google announces Gemini 3.5 Pro next month. And if we do get a, GPT 5.5, Sonnet 4.7, right, whatever we may get from the other labs, but pretty big news. So here's why I think it's going to be useful. Well, you get frontier level coding and long horizon agent work at the Flash tier speed. The price no longer, right? So I think if you went back to an older version, I think it's like Gemini 2.0 Flash or 2.5 Flash, right? It was essentially 20 times cheaper. You don't have that anymore. So there's actually some things it's kind of going up in price on the Flash side if you look at previous Flash models. So with Gemini 3.1 Flash, it is getting much more expensive. So, no longer when you see the Flash moniker, at least out of Google Gemini, do you assume, oh, this is a cheaper model? I know a lot of companies had really been using the Flash series for that reason, because it gave you a pretty high intelligence level and a very fast, output. So you still have the speed of the Flash, but you don't quite have the same price breakthrough, at least if you're comparing it to previous generations of Flash. So I still think it's going to be, valuable for developers and engineering teams who are running anything on the agentic side, operators that are just running, deep research, multi-step workflows, things like that. So it's still a very capable model. I think probably the best, overall, I guess outcome for everyday people is if you use Google's AI mode, it's getting much better than it was before because this was on the previous version of Flash. All right. Here's someone from YouTube, funny name here, the Permanent Underclass 26, said the updates from Google hasn't made me want to try it over Codex. Yeah, for me, I can't get out of Codex right now. And it is one of those things when you talk about, speed and price, right? One of the big things with speed is, well, if you're just sitting there waiting, but now with Codex, when you can schedule things around the clock, some of the new updates now, I think certain things on the speed side are less important for me personally, and I think for a lot of other power users as well. All right, let's go next. So next we have PowerPoint. Just got a little bit better. That's because there is a new ChatGPT integration. So here's what's new. This is a new native add-in that puts ChatGPT directly inside Microsoft PowerPoint to help create, edit, and review docs from natural language prompts. So you can pull source material from any of the connected services you have, which is the really cool thing, right? So you get to use a lot of the power of ChatGPT's kind of harness and tooling. It's not just using the model, right? You can use all of your connected services like, Gmail or your Outlook or your SharePoint, right? So you can pull in all of that information, which is huge. So then, slides can be built from your existing emails, documents, spreadsheets, right? Without copying and pasting or having to manually go look that thing up. So it also includes a reasoning feature that critiques drafts, flags weak storytelling, and anticipates audience questions, not just slide generation. So this one, just came out yesterday. A lot of these are fresh, hot out the oven. So I haven't had a chance to try this one yet, but I'm actually super excited for some of those reasons. Aside from just having, a new ChatGPT integration inside PowerPoint, which is really nice, just that new reasoning feature that critiques and flags weak storytelling, anticipates audience questions is really cool. This is a great use case or example of how it's so important to use a reasoning model day to day, right? For the most part, most models are either reasoning or hybrid off the shelf, but this just goes to show you, right? With this integration, it's not just going to spit out a bunch of, hopefully legible and good text, but it's going to pull from your day to day, right? This is context engineering inside of PowerPoint, powered by one of the best harnesses around inside of ChatGPT, but also it can kind of take a step outside of the work that you're doing and critique it a little bit. So here is what OpenAI says about the new integration. So it says it turns conversations into presentations in minutes. So it can create and edit in plain language. So you can start from notes, docs, spreadsheets, prompts, or an existing deck. You can ask ChatGPT to create slides, rewrite content, tighten the hierarchy, and add a new section or publish a draft while keeping the outputs editable in PowerPoint. You can get a clearer story from your deck. You can ask what your presentation says, where the narrative is weak, what's missing, and what an executive audience might ask. So you can use ChatGPT to summarize, restructure, and turn dense slides into clearer takeaways. And then you can follow along so then you can trust the work. So OpenAI says that ChatGPT works inside of PowerPoint, reads your deck structure, and helps preserve editable slide contents, review changes, check important claims and numbers, and keep control that you share. All right, so to install it, you are going to want to look in the upper right-hand corner, the add-ins kind of toggle there, and then search for ChatGPT, and then you will need to connect your ChatGPT account. So this one is actually pretty cool because I know that there's still a lot of people that maybe either don't have the experience or the expertise yet and kind of vibing slides, right? So NotebookLM with Nano Banana is great for vibing slides, right? The new GPT images too, great for vibing slides. People don't know this. I shared this on one of our shows, right? You can create a codex skill that can kind of stitch all of those together so you don't have to do it like slide by slide. But here's, I think, first, who has access? So it's available now for a lot of paid ChatGPT plans. So right now it's available in beta for ChatGPT Business, Enterprise, EDU, Teachers, K-12, free, Go, Plus, Pro. So essentially just about every single ChatGPT account. AI moves too fast to follow, but you're expected to keep up. Otherwise, your career or company might lag behind while AI native competitors leap ahead. But you don't have 10 hours a day to understand it all. That's what I do for you. But after 700 plus episodes of Everyday AI, the most common questions I get is, where do I start? That's why we created the Start Here series, an ongoing podcast series of more than a dozen episodes you can listen to in order. It covers the AI basics for beginners and sharpens the skills of AI champions pushing their companies forward. In the ongoing series, we explain complex trends in simple language that you can turn into action. There's 3 ways to jump in. Number 1, go scroll back to the first one in episode 691. Number 2, tap the link in your show notes at any time for the Start Here series, or you can just go to starthereseries.com, which also gives you free access to our Inner Circle community where you can connect with other business leaders doing the same. The Start Here series will slow down the pace of AI so you can get ahead. It does also obviously require a Microsoft account, so you have to have access to Microsoft PowerPoint, obviously. But here's why it's useful. So, I mean, it removes the copy and paste from other tools, right? Kind of the human duct tape that I've been talking about for so long. It keeps the slides editable in the native PowerPoint structure, right? Rather than just producing a flat export. Because yeah, you might be looking at this and being like, wait, the new GPT Images 2 is absolutely amazing, right? Why would I, not just use that? Well, that gives you a flat JPEG, right? And obviously in PowerPoint, there's going to be some, some things that you have to use in your, your pre-approved company template, right? A lot of times you just get these decks, you have to use them, right? There's all these different things. So, just right there, being able to adhere and stick to your company's brand guidelines, but being able to kind of take a step outside of it, right? It's almost like having, a junior consultant come in and they're an outside, version of yourself because they're, poking and prodding, but also being able to use some of the best features as inside of ChatGPT as well. So, I mean, who's going to find this valuable? Any knowledge workers, right? So if you are still kind of, I know a lot of people are quote unquote forced to use PowerPoint. I know some people love PowerPoint by default. Me, I don't know why I'm still stuck on Canva, right? I'm PowerPoint's great, but I know a lot of enterprise companies. I would say the majority of enterprise companies, when you're creating a deck, you still have to do it in PowerPoint, right? Even if you wanted to, vibe something up in one of these other tools, right? So any knowledge worker that is living inside of PowerPoint, but also that has data scattered across any of those other ChatGPT connectors, this is going to be a huge time saver, right? This is why I think this Friday show is actually super helpful and important, because chances are hardly no one saw this, right? Because OpenAI yesterday shipped so much on the Codex end, this probably slipped under the radar, right? Like be honest, live stream audience. Did anyone know about this, right? Did anyone know actually that ChatGPT came out for PowerPoint? Maybe Nisiani did, right? Since she works at Microsoft, but I don't know. I didn't see anyone talk about this, right? I obviously have a lot of agents crawling everything 24/7. So when I saw this pop up yesterday, I'm like, why is no one talking about this? All right. Something people are talking about, our next AI news story. A new, well, technically not a video model from Google, more of an anything to anything model, as they're calling it. It is the new Gemini Omni Flash. So this is Google's, let me kind of give everyone the visual there for our live stream audience. This is Google's new multimodal, what they're calling the world model that they announced at I/O. So it generates and edits high quality video from any combination of text, image, audio, and video inputs. So this combines Gemini's reasoning with DeepMind's Nano Banana, VO, and Genie lineage, with claims of better physics, gravity, and kinetic motion simulation versus prior video models. So this also supports conversational editing of existing footage, right? So you can upload a video and say, change what's happening in this scene, or change the background to make it Chicago instead of New York, right? So pretty cool. So here's who has access, and I'm going to get to my thoughts on it here in a second. So Gemini Omni Flash has already rolled out to paid users. So if you have a Google AI Plus Pro or Ultra plan, it is available inside of the Gemini app as well as inside of Google Flow. And it is coming to YouTube Shorts at some point, although we don't have a firm date on when. All right, so here's a couple important pieces to think about. So Google, well, they said this very directly. This is positioned as a family of models. So obviously the Flash name attached to it lets you know that there is going to be a bigger version, whether that's called Omni Pro. We'll see. The other thing, I think people are kind of overlooking the true value of this. People are looking at this as just a model that outputs video, which is not really true, but that's all really you're seeing online is people are just demoing, right? Like, oh, here, I put in this text prompt and got this video. But again, this is not a text input video output model. This is an anything to, well, anything. Eventually it'll be an anything to anything, but right now it's kind of an anything to video model. And that's actually important and an important designation to talk about, because a lot of people are right now comparing Omni to Seed Dance. All right. So Seed Dance right now is the best AI video tool out there. So from a quality perspective, Google Omni Flash, at least, is not the same quality as Seed Dance 2, right? A very popular Chinese AI video model. But I think that's people are missing the point because this is video input, video output. Not only that, but eventually, my guess is it's going to be able to output world models. It's going to be able to output, I don't know, Google Street View. Output CAD drawings, right? So I think if you just look at this as a text to video output, and comparing it to Seedance and saying, oh, this new Google Omni Flash stinks, I think you're missing the point. But I do think one thing that it is instantly the best at in the world is video in, video out. And I think there's great examples of that Google has shared already online that show whether you're using something for production or if you're just, kind of playing around, to be able to upload a video without any real technical knowledge and change anything, right? Change the shirt I'm wearing, change the person in this video, but keep everything else the same. Like I said, I actually talked with a client recently. They had a really good workflow on this using, I think it was a combination of Seedance and Runway, but it was a lot of human hours, right? And the quality was, it was good, but it wasn't okay, right? They did an expensive video shoot. They had to they had to change some things on the back end, right? The team was like, hey, this doesn't really fit our vision, even though this is how we shot it. So they had to use a lot of these tools and a lot of, human hours to use these AI tools to change some things. But now it's much easier to do that piece with the new Omni model. So here is kind of what Google says about it. They said, we're introducing Gemini Omni, where Gemini's ability to reason meets the ability to create. Omni is our new model that can create anything from any input, starting with video. With Omni, you can combine images, audio, video, and text as input and generate high-quality videos grounded in Gemini's real-world knowledge. You can also easily edit your videos through conversation. They said, today we're rolling out the first model in the Omni family, Gemini Omni Flash, to the Gemini app, Google Flow, and YouTube Shorts. Like I said, YouTube Shorts is not out just yet. In time, we will support output modalities like image and audio. And then they said, one of the biggest things, like I said, I'll just leave with this and then we'll move on. But the biggest thing is being able to edit your video, right? Any video that you upload, to be able to edit it conversationally and to transform the world around you. All right. So what do you guys think? And let me know in the Spotify comments as well. I'm always at a loss. It's like, I don't know if the average, knowledge worker is really interested in these kind of things. If, marketing departments, creative, people, like, should we be covering this more on the show? Should we stick to more on the, agentic harnessing, text input, output, coding side, getting work artifacts done? Personally, I'm very interested in this side, right? In a previous life, I did a lot of photo and video, right? I have, I don't know, at least five DSLR, high grade Canon cameras somewhere in a closet, right? I used to really be into photo and video. So for me personally, I love this kind of stuff. But, ultimately, when it comes to growing your business, let me know if this is something that you really care about or not. All right. The next thing, maybe you care about this if you use Cursor. All right. So we don't cover Cursor a ton on the show, but I think this one is actually pretty important for what it represents. So here's our next AI feature this Friday, Cursor Composer 2.5. So if you don't know anything, let me give you some background first. Cursor is essentially an agentic IDE, right? You can bring in a bunch of different models and, you can vibe code something, right? That's a very simplified way to say what Cursor is, right? But think of like, Codex or Claude Code, but you can use any model. So it's built by Cursor, but Cursor also has their own in-house models. But until this new update, I don't think people were really using Composer, but with Composer 2.5, I think that could change. So this is Cursor's in-house coding model that they just released. It is built on top of Moonshot AI's Kimi K25 checkpoints, but with 25 times more synthetic training data compared to Composer 2. So kind of the sweet spot is they're targeting long horizon agentic coding, multi-file edits, terminal sessions, iterative debugging, and sub-agent recovery. So here's some of the reasons why this is really important, because for the first time, we have a model from the coding and agentic side that is at least in the frontier column, right? For the most part, it's always just been the latest version of GPT, the latest version of Opus, and the latest version of Gemini Pro. And then there's usually a pretty big drop off with everyone else. So, Composer is not ahead of any of those three models, but it's at least in the same league. It's in the same territory now, which is big, especially when we look at the price. Because on things like Terminal Bench, right, and Bench, two of the more important kind of agentic coding benchmarks, it's literally neck and neck with Opus 4.7 on those. It's way behind, right? Terminal Bench, GPT 5.5 is in another category, but Bench, multilingual, at least, it's on par with, the big players. And this is really important. So this is live now. So who has access? It's live now for all paid plans inside of Cursor. And they also included usage for subscribers for a week after launch. Here's why it's important. All right. So you are getting a near, and I think a lot of people using Cursor are still heavy Opus users, right? Via, Anthropic's model. One of the reasons is, I feel fine saying this because the data backs it up. The harness of Claude is really bad, right? When you compare it across, there's actually harness benches. Claude's is the worst. It's one of the actual worst harnesses or pieces of software to use for their own models, which is why I think a lot of people have used Cursor in kind of a sweet spot. But the price for Opus is, well, compared to this, it's now doesn't make sense, right? So now with the new Composer 2.5, it is 50 cents per 1 million token inputs and $2.50 per 1 million token output. So let's compare that. That's about a tenth of the price, because on the Opus 4.7 side, that 50 cents input becomes $5 and that 250 output becomes $25. So it is literally a tenth of the price, but about, depending on what metric you're looking at, it's about 90-ish% of the capabilities, right? Just a general broad overview. If you're looking at benchmarks across the board, maybe 80 to 90%. So you're getting 80 to 90% of Opus capabilities at 10% of the cost. And this is one of the things, not to go off on a side tangent, right? So much of Anthropic's business model is people using their models via the API, right? Their own tooling and rate limits and harnessing is fairly bad. So that's why I'm always like, from a moat perspective, when you see things like this and when you see these Chinese models come out that are great at coding, but even something like Cursor and Composer 2.5, pretty big. So this is, going to be useful for people that are running, long sessions that you need to stay coherent. Companies that are maybe having to cut back on, Anthropic token budgets, right? A lot of companies that are using Anthropic are hitting their, budget allocation for the year already, or are already having to see themselves cut down on token spending, right? The token maxing of, quarter one is now showing up on the quarter two budget sheets. So I think that's going to be a key factor here. So engineering teams that are running heavy background or batch agentic workloads are going to like this. Any cost-sensitive solo developers or small teams that have kind of priced themselves out of, Opus 4.7 or, GPT 5.5 high, or if you're just obviously a Cursor Pro subscriber. So pretty actually big news. Like I said, I know we don't cover Cursor a ton, but I think why it's a big deal is for anyone that's actually using Anthropic Opus 4.7 and aren't liking the bugginess and the uptime, right, in their desktop app or their CLI, or if you're just seeing all these Codex features and you're like, wait, I want that, or you're just pricing yourself out. It's actually a pretty big, pretty big update. All right, got to get a drink of coffee there. All right, our next one, Amazon Alexa. Oh my gosh, there's an update. Are we actually going to talk about Alexa here on the show? Yes, we are. So it's an interesting one. They're just kind of taking NotebookLM's most popular original feature that made it go viral, the deep dive, where it's two AI voices having a great podcast discussion, and they're trying to incorporate that into Alexa. So this is a new Alexa Plus feature that was just launched, and it generates full audio podcast episodes from AI hosts on demand for any topic that the user requests. So here's specifically what it is. So it's 2 AI generated voices that co-host in a conversational back and forth, similar to the NotebookLM audio overviews, but they're not prompted from documents. So users can adjust the length, tone, and focus. After Alexa Plus proposes an outline, then you can finish the episode and it's delivered as a notification to your Echo Show devices and then saved in your Alexa app. So here's the the downside is, well, you got to have Alexa Plus. So it is already starting to roll out in the US, and it's included if you already have Alexa Plus at no cost. So if you do have Alexa Plus, FYI, if you are an Amazon Prime member, if not, it is a monthly fee. So yeah, if you're already paying for Amazon Prime, which I think a lot of people are, like, I don't know how the world existed before you could, I don't know, get like Nespressos delivered to your door in like an hour. But a lot of people probably don't have Alexa Plus, or they didn't know that they could get it via Amazon Prime. So it might be worth checking out to see if you want this kind of Notebook LM flavor on the go. So here is what Amazon said about it. So they said creating custom audio content is now effortless. No documents to upload, no prep work needed. Just tell Alexa what you're curious about, and it does the rest in minutes. Alexa will pull together the relevant information, give you an overview of what it plans to cover, and let you adjust the length and direction conversationally before generating anything. Once you're happy with the plan, Alexa creates a recording with AI-generated host voices. When your episode is ready, you'll get a notification on your Echo Show device and the Alexa app. Just tap to start listening. You can also find it in the music and more section, or tune in through the Alexa app, whether you're on the go. All right. Here's one thing that I want to call out. All right. It's not Tuesday, but I have a small little hot take. So clearly this is Amazon calling out Google in their Notebook LM. But the thing I don't think Amazon understands here, and we'll see, because personally, I don't see this working out very well. Number one, Alexa Plus is hot garbage, right? Alexa Plus, still garbage. Siri, still not usable. Maybe that changes, in a couple of months when and if oh, this is funny. Sorry. I just had a Codex automation pop up on my screen here. I should probably turn that off when I'm doing my live stream. Right. But, Amazon here really going after and calling out Google and Notebook LM by name by saying you don't need to upload any documents. Right. Which here's the thing. Alexa Plus is not good. Right. It hallucinates. It's terrible. It doesn't understand what you're talking about. So for me, personally, at least for my use cases that I use audio overviews for, and I use them all the time, I want to provide those documents, right? I don't want Alexa Plus to, let's just say I want, hey, give me the latest AI news updates this week. Right. If you're trying to replace me out there, don't you do it, at least not with Alexa Plus podcast, because I'm guessing it's going to be abysmally bad. It's going to be laughable. It's going to pull things from months ago. Right. So at least for me, Amazon here is trying to, make a point here where, I don't know, the point I think and why Notebook LM audio overviews are so freaking good is because they do work on your documents and they ground it only in your documents. So I think at least it's worth talking about here, because it's interesting that Amazon is, literally intentionally calling out, right? You don't have to upload documents. Everyone knows this is a straight up copy of Notebook LM's audio overviews. Personally, I don't see this coming out well. Like, I don't know. Some of these big companies, I think you should probably talk about this and say this out loud. And I don't know, maybe ask someone outside of your own company, right, if this is a good idea or bad idea, because I think they're trying to make a splash with this to get people to use Alexa Plus. They probably thought it would, maybe go viral like the audio overviews did. I don't think it's going to turn out well. All right. Speaking of that, since apparently I'm giving my opinion on all the AI feature updates, I don't think this one's going to turn out well, at least not in the short term for Google. So the next AI update is Google's AI anti-gravity 2.0. All right. So a lot of, IDE and CLI terminology, right? Someone told me on LinkedIn the other day, they're like, Jordan, you use too many buzzwords. Explain things. All right. So IDEs are essentially these, agentic coding interfaces, right? And a CLI, command line interface, is when you're coding or using something like Claude Code or Codex via the terminal, right? So your CLIs, that's kind of how you're coding in the terminal, right? And then you have these desktop applications that allow you to code, but it's a little more user friendly. That's kind of your IDEs. So that's what anti-gravity is. Think of it as, well, it's Google's new version of Codex. Little confusing, but let's talk about what's new. And yeah, it wasn't all good. So this was also announced at Google I/O, and it's an expansion of the original anti-gravity IDE, and Google's kind of first foray, I guess, at least that they're putting a lot of momentum behind, into a full agent-first development platform. So yeah, here's where it starts to get confusing and why you need a map and a translator. And yeah, it's confusing. So there's 5 services. So there's now a standalone desktop app, which I tried. There's still the anti-gravity CLI, which is codenamed AGY, which replaced the Gemini CLI, right? There's also an anti-gravity SDK. There's the managed agents in the Gemini API. And also Google's AI Studio can use the anti-gravity harness. So it's also a harness now. And yeah, and there's still the Gemini desktop app. So it's different. So it's confusing. So let's at least talk about who has access. So the desktop app is now available on Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. There is also a new pricing tier, and they even adjusted temporarily tripled the limits inside of anti-gravity. I think that's just a short-term thing, though, because a lot of people were not happy when it rolled out with the limits and just overall with the product. So the other thing that people are very upset about is the Gemini CLI is being deprecated for consumer users. So that's, I think, is the biggest thing that a lot of people were upset about, because I believe the Gemini CLI was open source and a lot of people loved it. So essentially, Google was allowing this great command line, coding tool. And I do know originally when they announced it, it was like free tokens originally. Right. So now they're sunsetting it in June, and this is part of the replacement. So let's talk about why it's useful. Well, if you are, I'm trying to be honest and also factual here, because for me, I tried it. I don't find it useful. I don't think anti-gravity is very good right now, which is interesting to me because Google seemed to push it way more than they should have. If I was Google, I probably would have announced this on the down low. I wouldn't have put a lot of, given this a lot of, shine at the keynote. But they did, and they're continuing to push it afterwards, which is interesting because it's not good, right? A lot of what Google released is really good, right? Gemini 3 Flash, if you're using it inside the Gemini app, right, not paying for the usage, really good. Gemini Omni, really good, really exciting. A lot of other things that they announced that maybe aren't available yet to anyone, really good. Anti-gravity 2.0, really not good, right? Especially when you compare it to Codex. And why I do have to bring this up is because Google has gotten a lot of flack, and probably rightfully deserved, because in the actual announcement video, I kid you not, in the actual announcement video from Google, it was a 16-minute video. I watched it about the 2 or 3 minute mark. I don't know if no one edited it or watched it, but literally on the person that's demoing the new anti-gravity, there is a desktop folder that says Codex, all right, or a folder on their computer that says Codex. And why does that matter? Well, visually, this looks like Codex. It looks the exact same, right? When I opened it, I obviously had Codex open on my computer, and I opened and installed anti-gravity, the hour after it came out. And I'm like, wait, why is this not launching? And where did all my Codex chats go? Like, I literally thought that, because it looks identical to Codex, right? And actually the Codex team called this out, tongue in cheek. But yeah, again, I'm not sure. I think Google could have gotten this right. Maybe they felt the need to get out an unpolished version, which I commend companies for putting something out that's maybe not quite perfect. But if you're going to do that, don't highlight it as much as they did, just say, hey, this is a beta product. It's working, work in progress, but go use it. So, all right, let's wrap up here, because our last one, I think, is the big one. All right. Oh yeah. Sorry. Joe said, quiet, don't say Alexa's name. Yeah, sorry. I've already done it. So let's see. Alexa. All right. We'll see. I just screwed up probably for a lot of people. Sorry. I think we need a code name if I'm covering, Alexa or SIRA to not trigger that for you. All right. But yes, Google obviously won the week when it came to total releases. But like I said, you almost have to have a degree in daily AI like me to understand what Google released, because a lot of the things I wanted to cover this week, but I couldn't because some things are only available to workspace members, right? Or some things, or sorry, to only available. Some things are only available to workspace members. Some things are only available if you're a free Gmail user. Some things are a paid personal Gmail user, right? You have to be an early tester. Somewhere things are in beta. It was too hard to navigate what's actually available. And that's what this show is, which I think if you want to talk about the most consequential single announcement this week, I think it's Codex. I know you're probably tired of me, guys, like saying Codex, 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 but let me repeat what the most important thing for you to hear right now is. Ready? Codex, Codex, Codex. The team at OpenAI continues to embarrass the entire AI industry with how good and useful Codex is and how far it is, right? I said about 2 months ago that Anthropic was winning 2026, but I think that tide has shifted. And I didn't think anyone would catch them, maybe not until the end of the year, certainly not in the second quarter. But I think OpenAI has retaken the lead in 2026, especially after a somewhat lackluster, at least response to Google I/O. I think a lot of people thought Google I/O, we were going to get the Gemini 3.5 Pro. We were going to get a more cohesive and easier to understand way to use all of Gemini's products, but it was just fragmented, right? Some good products, some confusing, but all over the place. But Codex continues and OpenAI continues to put more and more useful features that are easy to use inside of one single platform. So here's what's new. Yeah, because now OpenAI has moved to this new weekly Thursday drop. So a lot new. So one called App Shots. So this is essentially you can press both command keys when you have Codex open, and it takes the foremost app window as a kind of like a screenshot, and it brings it into Codex. But it's not just a screenshotting tool, because you'd be like, okay, well, I can screenshot anything and drop it into Codex. It also brings the text and the context of that window into Codex. So it just makes day-to-day working with other platforms so much faster. One of the things that I think slows me, quote unquote, slows me down from my Codex flow, even though I have a good screenshotting program, right? I use CleanShot, but it slows me down to, do my little keyboard command, shift command 4, drag my mouse, and then drag the screenshot over, even though it's a very efficient way to screenshot, right? But then I still don't get the context and the text from that app. So that's a lot of at least what I do. And I know I have to explain this because you might just be like, okay, what's the big deal? It's actually a big deal, right? This little thing called App Shots. So that's new. The other thing, goal mode is finally in the desktop app. So goal mode is absolutely bonkers. So Codex was first, but they only brought this to the CLI, to the command line interface version of Codex. Then Anthropic followed suit and brought goal mode to their CLI. So this is the first goal mode that is in the user-friendly desktop interface, and it is in Codex now. Huge. So this essentially graduated out of the experimental phase and is now available in the Codex app, and it allows Codex to drive autonomously toward a specific objective for hours or even days. All right, so I will warn you, all right, goal mode requires, you need a little bit of experience and you need a very specific prompt with use cases, examples, all of that. The last thing you want to do is go give Codex a very wide and general goal, because it's going to work to that. And even though OpenAI's rate limits are the best in the business. Yeah, Google even downgraded their paid rate limits after I/O. Anthropics are laughable. OpenAI's are the best in the business by far. But if you give Codex a goal that's way too broad, it's going to work and work and work to get it done. So if you're on the $20 a month plan, it's not going to last as long as you might want. All right, so the three big ones, App Shots, number 1. 2, goal mode. Number 3, this one's actually big. You no longer have to carry your laptop halfway open. So they have a new remote computer use. Okay, so this is different than being able to control codecs via your phone inside of the ChatGPT app. This allows when your computer is locked. All right, so when the lock screen is up, I don't know how. How is the Codex team shipping these things so quickly that just defy the laws of software, right? So yes, you can use computer use now while your computer, if you have a laptop, it's closed, it's locked, absolutely bonkers, and you can still control it obviously via the Codex mobile section inside of the ChatGPT app. So who has access? Well, everyone. Yeah, that's the other thing. Everyone. So go use Codex. I already told you. And go make sure you repost Wednesday's show. If you haven't already gotten the cookbook, people are loving it. All right. We gave that away if you go repost Wednesday's show, which was part 2 of our Codex series. All right. So the Codex, obviously, a lot of these things are only available for Mac users. I know Windows users aren't going to like that, but that's why, it's very hard to develop things for Windows, FYI. It's much easier to develop things for Mac, which is why the cutting edge of AI lives inside of Mac for now. All right, so here's why it's useful. So, app shots, it collapses one of the most annoying handoffs in the agentic workflow is just explaining or pasting what's in another app. Literally, the way they have it set up by default, this is how much I am loving what OpenAI is shipping. Just think, how do your hands sit on the keyboard, right? For the most part, your 2 thumbs sit near the space bar. So to launch this on a Mac, you hit the command key twice, which is the key just to the left and the right of the space bar. So talk about the small details that really matter. This stuff is huge. So goal mode, that's going to be extremely useful. This is your Ralph loop, right? This is your agent that's going to run for, hours or maybe even days, right? That other vendors keep promising. It's here, right? And then remote computer use obviously just closes the loop for genuine background autonomy. So you don't have to leave your Mac, your MacBook open and plugged in and, turn off all the power settings overnight. My gosh, I forgot another one. This is how much OpenAI just shipped yesterday. And then they also shipped shareable plugins across teams, which is a huge pain point for enterprise teams, right? I did a Claude training for a huge enterprise client a couple of weeks ago. And one of their biggest pain points company wide was how do we share skills within Claude? And it actually is a big problem that there's no built-in way to do that. And OpenAI just fixed what I think is one of the biggest problems that no one really talks about in the enterprise, which is the plugins, right? So plugins are skills plus app use. And now you can share those across teams if you have a team account inside of Codex. My gosh. Do you guys see why now I'm just like Codex? Google shipped a lot of great stuff. It's hard and confusing to use. None of it works together, right? So a lot to cover this week. Sorry, this one went a little long. There was a lot to cover, but I hope this one was helpful. If so, please, if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, please do that. That really helps both me keep this show going, and it helps other people find this who don't just want a bunch of people reading a script and, shilling for some product. I try to give it to you straight. I always have, and I continue to always will do that. So please subscribe to the podcast and then go to our website, youreverydayai.com. Sign up for the free daily newsletter. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back next week. Actually, Tuesday. All right. Monday, holiday. We'll see you Tuesday with the AI news and every day after that for more Everyday AI. Thanks, y'all.
And that's a wrap for today's edition of Everyday AI. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a rating. It helps keep us going. For a little more AI magic, visit youreverydayai.com and sign up to our daily newsletter so you don't get left behind. Go break some barriers, and we'll see you next time.